Okay, I'm John Hales, and it is my great pleasure to introduce Rosie Bates' reading tonight. And the first part, you might want to take notes because this will be on the exam. But it's just a paragraph. And then okay. The best writing manages something impossible and therefore possibly magical. It makes the personal universal. Somehow, the more focused and precise, the more idiosyncratic and local, the more sincere and self-reflective the writing is, the more powerfully it connects with readers living lives that on the surface couldn't be more different. Only the most ambitious and graceful writing can make that connection, that leap from the writer's life into our own. And this is the gift Rosie Bates gives us with her work. Her writing digs deep into her experience to offer not just the scenery or the stories or the way her rich life experiences inform each other, although these are gifts enough. As we accompany her exploration of her own experiences, we enter more deeply into our own lives and emerge with a better, more informed sense of who we are. I need some water. I think this lighting is making me.
Sorry, John.
Okay. In one memorable essay in her book, to be published this fall in Hales magazine, she's facing a situation starkly unfamiliar to most of us. She's dangling from a vertical rock face 1,000 feet above the floor of Yosemite Valley, belaying Ben, her climbing partner, as he moves from sketchy handhold to sketchy handhold, feeding out the rope intended to catch him if he falls, anticipating the difficult move she'll make when it's her turn to climb, and pondering the feelings that begin with physical discomfort. She's been hanging there a while. Then uneasiness that slowly blossoms into fear. We've all been there. Okay. I mean, of course we haven't been there. You'd have to be seriously crazy or a serious climber to put yourself in that fix. And of course, we do understand that she's afraid, and who wouldn't be? She scared us with the first few sentences, showing us the precarious details of her perch. But the essay won't let us, her readers, remain safely on the valley floor. And returning us throughout the essay back to that exposed belay point, and by reflecting on memories of other experiences of fear, stories of overcoming and succumbing, of balancing luck and risk against skill and preparation, the many risky choices that have left her dangling in all kinds of precarious circumstances, her essay explores dimensions of vulnerability and danger that range even beyond the significant threat of a disastrous fall. In locating her roped connection with Ben, and even more profound and daunting contexts of human connection, we joined her in reflecting on what we owe each other, what we value, and as a consequence, inevitably fear in the vulnerability that close partnership requires. When Rosie speaks the words, are you reading this essay? Okay, good. So otherwise, spoiler alert. I mean, she survives. She's here. When Rosie speaks the words, she fears nearly as much as she fears the dangers of the climb. Her admission to her climbing partner that she wants to bail, to end the climb with this pitch and return to the relative safety of the valley floor. We're vastly relieved, of course, and yet we also feel the fearful weight of this decision, what this admission requires of herself. We haven't become Rosie, although we're about as close as most of us will ever get to facing this particular kind of peril. Even so, we've shared her exploration of what fear means, Rosie's own childhood forebodings and more recent ponderings of the motivations that brought her to this perilous point. And as a result, we've come face to face with our own fears, the complicated web of excitement and courage, dangers and vulnerabilities, real and imagined, that complicate our own consequential choices. We've come to understand more about what it means to be ourselves, making our way through our less daunting but still precarious daily lives. It is, I'm very, very happy to introduce the writer, Rosie Bates.
Thank you, John. Yeah, I'm gonna try to keep my acknowledgement short just because I'm like right up against that 20-minute mark and I don't wanna go over, but I won't go over. I might a minute. I can't promise anything. But yeah, I mean, I'm internally grateful for John, Stephen, and the rest of the MFA faculty, Jefferson, Brent. It's truly like, I kind of just like decided to leave my job and pursue an MFA and jumped right into it. And I couldn't have asked for like a better community of writers to learn from and to grow from. So, and especially John, for all your support and agreeing to be my chair, even though you're retired. That means a lot. You introduced me to Augustine and Melissa Bibos on the same day, which is a class I will not forget, mostly because of Melissa Bibos. But importantly, you and Stephen both have helped me understand my worth as a writer of creative nonfiction. I'm always kind of shocked to revisit the writing that I entered the program with compared to the writing I'm doing now. And this is definitely a testament to you two and the energy you both put into your students. So thank you. The third reader of my thesis is not faculty here. She's someone who I've looked up to since I started to read mountaineering literature in undergrad. She's an author and editor, Katie Ives. Thank you. She's not here. She's also not listening, but thank you. And I've also been lucky to have made some wonderful friends in the program. A lot of them who are here, which is awesome to see. People have come back. It's really amazing. The community here in Fresno. And also, yeah, Miley's and Amber, like grateful to have you all kind of supporting me along the way. Dylan, you're a new friend, but I'm excited to hear you read tonight. Yeah, I'm constantly inspired by your work, and I can't wait to read your first books. It's gonna happen. Yeah, writing this thesis is required that I dig into a particularly challenging time in my life. A lot of it's through the frame of climbing, which this essay that I'm reading tonight is not going to be so much about climbing. And I swear Amber and I didn't coordinate, but I think a lot of our writing like echoes each other in different ways and has grown because of each other. So you're in for it's going to double up on what she wrote and hopefully, add to the conversation. But that was amazing. I haven't heard that essay before and it was like, blew me away. So thank you for sharing that. And then of course, like my parents and sister, they're up in Seattle, but I wouldn't be doing this without their unconditional love and support. And of course, my wonderful partner, Benton, Ben, the partner on the rock that John was talking about. He's seen me through these last 3 years and patiently listened to drafts. There's been a character in more than one of my essays. So yeah, thank you all. Yeah, so like I said, I'm going to be reading a shortened version of one of my most recent works in progress, tentatively titled Observed. So yeah. In the fall of 2006, right around the time of my 16th birthday, I developed an obsessive relationship with the Food Network. While I watch anything that is on the channel, I have a special fondness for Giada De Laurentiis, who is in season 7 of her cooking show, Everyday Italian. Each episode of Everyday Italian begins in the middle of some sort of action. A joyful family smiling, laughing around an idyllic dinner table overflowing with baskets of sliced baguettes and fall-themed centerpieces. 2 blonde-haired girls in dry swimsuits eagerly helping their moms at an outdoor table. Or a woman sitting alone outside a cafe sipping espresso, reading a newspaper in a busy Italian square. As quickly as the cheerful gatherings around food begin, the scenes cut, fading to a woman, the same woman who sipped espresso in that bustling square, Giada, resting comfortably, grinning eagerly on a light brown suede couch. Giada starts every episode of season 7, which airs across 2005 and 2006 on this couch. Usually half of her brown hair is pulled back into a bun. If not, she has it down, loosely curled, blonde highlights dusting her shoulders, framing her face, thinly plucked eyebrows and shiny pink lip gloss that accentuates her straight white teeth. On the screen, she glows, her body unencumbered, a 2-dimensional form slotted effortlessly into any scene. I wonder, as a cook who specializes in carb-heavy dishes, how she remains so skinny. In 1944, the end of World War II was in sight, and Allied forces were slowly re-entering cities in German-occupied Europe. As relief efforts began in these cities, one humanitarian issue emerged that was posing the biggest threat to post-war diplomacy: hunger. The US government, interested in having an upper hand in the rehabilitation efforts of Europe, enlisted one young physiologist and consultant to the War Department, Dr. Ansel Keys, to lead the cause. Eager to take on the challenge, Keys, who is the K behind the K rations, which are the ready-to-eat meals used by soldiers during the war, knew that research on the effects of starvation on the human body and mind were still mostly anecdotal. So with his team at the University of Minnesota, he designed a study with the overall goal of publishing the data before the war ended so that humanitarian workers sent in to rehabilitate those starving communities would have some sort of guidance. The first obstacle, as with most studies that require human subjects, was finding willing participants. The time of recruitment for the study: if you were a healthy, able-bodied man between the ages of 18 and 46, you were expected to serve your country, whether it was through service in the military or, if you objected, service as a volunteer for the civilian public service, or the CPS, which was one of the few legal ways to avoid being drafted to fight. Since most of the potential subjects were overseas fighting, and the NIH won't recommend women as participants in medical research until 1986, Keys turned to the CPS and sent out a recruitment flyer to the camps that read, "Will you starve so that they'd be better fed?" In the end, 36 subjects were selected from CPS pool, and these normal young men who believed serving their country meant not taking up arms made their way to Minnesota, where they were going to be subjected to 6 months of semi-starvation for the sake of science. From the couch, Giada addresses the TV audience. She addresses me. She is smiling. She never stops smiling. And speaking, she motions excitedly with her hands, her mouth opening wide to accentuate each syllable. Thanksgiving is the food highlight for most Americans, but what do you do with leftovers? She pauses. I'm intrigued. What do we do with the leftovers? I remember my grandma making us sandwiches on buttery bread rolls. Forget about those turkey sandwiches. Giada makes a playful hand motions to indicate doing away with the boring, the mundane, the nostalgic. Noted, forgotten. Sorry, Grandma. I have new and exciting ideas, she smiles, a nod to the audience, indicating she is about to let us in on a secret. Tell me more, Giada. Turkey bolognese turns your Thanksgiving main course into a meaty spaghetti feast. End scene, slow pan out to an image of a garnished spaghetti mountain sitting plump upon a white plate. In the fall of 2006, I begin each dinner staring blankly at a 27-inch Panasonic TV, enamored by Giada's staccato Italian pronunciation of marinara and bruschetta in her hands while she made precise, nearly perfect cuts of lemon and garlic. Mom enters the living room. She sighs and asks, or rather states, in an exasperated tone, "So we're watching the Food Network again." My trance is uninterrupted by her statement, her exasperated tone. She lays my portion dinner of rice, chicken, and broccoli on the TV tray in front of me. "Please try to eat while you watch," she says, and walks back to the kitchen, shaking her head no when my dad asks her an inaudible question. The scene cuts, slow pan, to a TV tray of untouched rice, broccoli, and chicken. World War II officially ended in 1945, halfway through the study's semi-starvation period. Keys and his colleagues rushed to publish what they had discovered so far in a manual they titled Men and Hunger. In this manual, Keys observed that during the period of semi-starvation, food became many of the subjects' singular focus, and for some, eating became an almost religious experience. Their dreams, daydreams, and conversations all revolved around what they were eating. Many of the men also adopted strange habits to extend the time spent eating the small amounts provided, and several men collected cookbooks. One of them acquired nearly 100 by the end of the study. When asked to reflect on the experience, a participant, one of the conscientious objectors, said, "The difference between us and the people we were trying to serve is that they probably had less food than we did. We were starving under the best possible medical conditions, and most of all, we knew the exact date on which our torture was going to end." While the results from Keys' starvation study have informed the treatment, there went on to never mind, I'm gonna take that out. Excuse me. Like I said, it's from a longer essay, so I'm like, it was hard to condense it, but we'll go on. All right, in the spring of 2003, I volunteered to have my body fat percentage measured in front of my 8th grade PE class. My teacher digs plastic calipers into the back of my bicep and reads out the number. She looks down at me and says, or maybe she doesn't say, and I interpret words from her furrowed brow and subsequent sigh. Interesting, that's on the higher end of girls your age. The boys who volunteer after me have lower percentages. We don't talk about the reason for measuring body fat. We are just left with our numbers. In the fall of 2005, I take a PE class called Health and Wellness, where we are introduced to My Pyramid, which is the brand new version of the USDA's long-running food guide pyramid. Our homework is to use mypyramid.gov to create an individualized meal plan, count calories, and track exercise. We weigh ourselves and take our heights so that we can calculate our daily caloric intake on the site. I think back to my body fat percentage, and now I have an answer to my question, the tools necessary for how I can control that. I start to pack only carrots for lunch, and so I don't exceed my daily allowance of calories dictated by the .gov site, and track how many sit-ups and push-ups and miles I run each week. One day as we change into our PE clothes, my friend asked me how she get a six-pack like me. I shrug and say, do 100 sit-ups per day, it's easy. That's what my climbing coach told me. I start to look at the other girls in my 9th grade class and feel superior in some undefined way. I judge their work ethic. Why aren't they trying as hard as I am? The next semester, spring of 2006, shortly before discovering Giada, I take another PE class called weightlifting. My teacher, an ex-Army officer, positions the only other girl in the class with me at the back of the squad lines we formed a stretch. After class, this girl and I talk about how that seems wrong, but drop it quickly after realizing we don't have the words to describe the feeling that we both have. As the semester progresses, we learn that in order to pass the fitness test, boys have to complete 8 pull-ups and 14 bar dips, and the girls only have to complete 1 of each. I complete 8 pull-ups and 14 bar dips. Our PE teacher tells me I'm in the 1% of girls in the country, and he becomes invested in helping me increase the amount of weight I'm lifting. I watch my muscles grow in the locker room mirrors, and with that, my weight goes up. This is counter to what I've been trying to achieve as a competitive rock climber, a sport I started earlier that year. My climbing coach notices these changes too, and one day at practice, he mentions offhandedly that I'm bulking up. I tell him it's because of weightlifting and PE, and he tells me I should do more reps instead of adding more weight and run more. Do that and you'll lean out. I tell my PE teacher I need to do more reps with less weight. He seems disappointed, but maybe he knows that the reason I can do 8 pull-ups like the boys is because I'm a climber, and he agrees to help. On the weekends, I start waking up early. Before I eat my breakfast of Special K with non-fat milk, I run. In the late summer of 2006, I sit on the crinkly paper at my doctor's examination table, and she points to where I am on a BMI chart to explain that I'm nearing a zone title underweight. She recommends that my parents take me to an outpatient eating disorder clinic in Seattle. The turn of the 20th century, weight relative to height as a health measure was introduced by American insurance companies, and along with this, the anti-fat bias took hold of the nation. For the upper class at that time, fatness, which had become to be associated with a lower status, was thought to be inherently in contrast to the American hard work ethos. In response to the growing stigma, insurance companies started to weed out prospective applicants based on questionable mortality research conducted by their own statisticians. By the 1950s, Dr. Ansel Keys, turning his attention from refeeding starved populations in Europe, became interested in coronary heart disease, or CHD. Frustrated with how insurance companies' statisticians had been determining risk of CHD by measuring weight in relation to height, Keys pushed for adiposity, or body fat, as a marker of health, and promoted using a skin fold measure as a test, calipers in the back of the bicep. After decades of what is now lauded as some by groundbreaking research and what others have called inconclusive results, Keys suddenly dropped his push for adiposity as a measure of health and longevity and inserted that a somewhat archaic measure, body mass index, was easier to calculate and therefore should be used instead. The origins of BMI can be traced back to a Belgian statistician who in 1830 developed it as a way to determine the norm for average man, which at the time meant average white man. Shortly after Keys' assertion, BMI charts became ubiquitous staples in doctors' offices. Of course, BMI is just another measure of weight relative to height, what Keys had argued against in the first place. While BMI can be an effective tool in epidemiological research looking at populations as a whole, it is not effective for assessing individual health. Perhaps, though, because it's cheap and easy, BMI is still used on an individual level by doctors and insurance companies to determine if someone is underweight enough to receive eating disorder treatment, or to decide how much to charge someone for insurance based on their presumed risk for heart disease. Sabrina Strings, associate professor of sociology at UC Irvine, whose research links anti-fat bias in the Western world to slavery, argues in her book on the subject that The phobia about fatness and the preference for thinness have not principally or historically been about health. Instead, they have been one way the body has been used to craft and legitimize race, sex, and class hierarchies. In October, after my 16th birthday, I returned to my doctor's office, and she tells me that I can no longer climb or play soccer, exercise really in any exerted form. My heart rate is too low to sustain anything over walking as a result of the weight I've lost and continuing to lose. Instead of going to practice after school, I come home and turn on the TV to watch food being made by the hands of Giada. My parents hover in the kitchen, sometimes joining me, but they struggle to keep up with my inordinately slow eating pace. Why is she watching others eat? I imagine they wonder when she has all the food she can eat at her fingertips. While watching Everyday Italian, I don't dream of eating food. Instead, I crave the anticipation of eating food. The preparation, the temptation, the presentation. Images alone are all I need to feel full. In December of 2006, I'm admitted to the psychiatric unit of Children's Hospital in Seattle for anorexia nervosa. One of my journals, I make a Christmas list, and the fourth item I ask for is to enjoy food because it keeps me alive. In 2007, Ryan Seacrest interviewed Giada for KISS FM's morning show. When I listened to the interview nearly 15 years after the original broadcast, their voices have a familiar, nostalgic resonance. After its debut in 2002, American Idol became a weekly staple for my family that preceded my obsession with Giada. A few minutes into the interview, Ryan, speaking to Giada, says, "Everyday Italian is really an escapism type program for me." He said that a lot of people watch your show on the Food Network with him when they're working out. Giada says, "Yeah, when they're working out, yeah, it's incredible." Ryan, "Yeah, Giada, it's fascinating. I guess it puts you in the mood to think about, okay, after I've spent this hour on the treadmill or doing whatever they're doing, that's exactly what I'm going to indulge in." I think of myself as 16 watching Giada escaping from the task of eating, watching her make food so I could feel full. I want to ask her what she means by incredible, what she means by fascinating. Does she care that people watch her make food while they're working out? Ryan moves on quickly. I wonder if he even knows what he meant when he said escapism. Ryan, "Yeah, right. Did you have braces?" Giada, "Yeah, for a long time." Ryan, "I mean, how perfect are those teeth?" Giada, "For a long time." My braces came off in December of 2006, a week before I was admitted to the hospital. The effect of my newly straightened out bare white teeth exaggerated my sunken cheekbones. In pictures from that winter, my face seems barely capable of holding up my naked, unsupported smile, but it's all people could talk about at the school dance my parents reluctantly allowed me to attend. Shocked perhaps when friends finally saw my emaciated frame, which had been hidden beneath winter clothing, they commented on my teeth. "Wow, what a great smile. That must have been expensive. Those teeth are perfect." I responded like Giada, embarrassed almost, as if I'm not the owner, as if they are rentals. I may be asked to return at any moment. I had braces for a long time, a long time. Ryan, "Okay, let's talk about background. For those who don't know, hottest girl ever, Giada." Giada, She laughs nervously. Ryan, "Like so much hotter than anybody else on the Food Network. And what is your profession?" This is real, I'll say. This is like the real deal. This isn't, you aren't playing a pretend cook. Giada, "No," she laughs again. "No, I am not." I don't remember doubting that Giada was a real cook. At this point, her attitude toward Ryan changes. She giggles more, plays into his questions, lets him poke fun at her, whispering, "I am old," when he feigns shocked that it has been 10 years since she was living in Paris attending culinary school. Giada, "And the reason I went to Paris was because I thought I would become a pastry chef. I figured what better place to go than Paris." Ryan, "But you're so skinny. Why did you want to get fat?" Giada, "But I didn't get fat." Ryan, "No, you didn't get fat, but you would have been fatter." Giada, "Wait, what?" Ryan, No. What I'm saying is you would have gotten fat if you were a pastry chef, right?" I wonder if Ryan ever talked to guests on American Idol like he talks to Giada. I wonder if Ryan ever asked male chefs these questions. I search Ryan Seacrest and Gordon Ramsay interviews on YouTube. I find an interview from 2010 titled "Gordon Ramsay Spits Out Diet Drinks." Ryan, "So I'm going to pour you a little bit." Gordon, "Look at the color of that." Ryan, "You don't have to drink the whole thing, but do a little taste. This is what I've been doing to stop from eating too much." Ryan spends the rest of the interview trying to convince Gordon the nutritional value of these juices he's been subsisting on. defers to him, asking him what he notices as a master chef about the taste or for advice about how to cut calories, lose weight. I want to ask Ryan why he's afraid of eating too much, and again, what he meant by escapism. Giada. Anyhow, I went to Paris. Yes, I gained a lot of weight when I moved there. Ryan, okay. Giada, a lot. Ryan, which you've lost. Giada, which I came back here and I lost it. And you know we do that. Women do that. Women do that. When I was discharged from the hospital in early 2007, I don't remember sitting down to watch the Food Network anymore. My parents probably didn't let me. Either way, I was no longer hungry for food, at least, but I still long for an escape. America in general is still a country obsessed with success. And most of the contemporary media we consume about how to achieve a success communicates that being a certain size, height, BMI, skin color, pursuing a certain career is the guaranteed way. The hard work ethos of early 20th century America permeates most every self-help book, and underdog stories are lauded as the norm. You can do anything if you just try hard enough. I started climbing competitively at age 13, entering a unique microcosm of the fitness industry at an impressionable age. The question of what will make you a better climber almost always came back to managing your weight relative to height. At one point or another, every climber will hear the phrase, train heavy, climb light, which to me implied that drastically cutting weight to perform, so I'd have less to pull up against the forces of gravity, was the norm for performance. As a young climber, part of me was convinced that climbing would be easier, less scary if I could just be lighter, like the professional climbers whose pictures I have plastered on my walls, two of whom have now publicly come forward to speak on their own struggles with disordered eating brought on by the pressures of performance in the sport. One of the climbers, Beth Rodham, wrote about her experience in a 2020 essay for Outside Online. She opens up her essay describing an early climbing trip she took at 14 with a male mentor of hers. Before they climbed, the mentor in his mid-20s gave her grief for eating 2 bagels. She reflects how he told her she'd consumed at least 2 days of calories with their choice and wouldn't be able to climb after that. She writes in the essay, I had no idea what he was talking about, but I felt ashamed and dumb, like I didn't know an important rule of climbing or eating. The seed was planted. When I look for someone or something to blame, I can't. All I know is that when I was growing up, I was encoding the messages coming in from the media I consumed and the words I heard from those in positions of authority. Of course, those authorities are informed, influenced by a system based on data that is long overdue for re-examination. Thank you.